Today's talk is titled Tidbits from the Big Sur Coastal Highway Story, to be delivered by Wayne Attoe. 37 years ago, while living in Louisiana, Wayne's late husband Peter and he bought 160 acres of raw land north of and a third of a mile higher than Cambria. They relocated 4 years later and spent 2 decades homesteading up there on Red Mountain. Green space and singing became Wayne's links to the world beyond. They moved to town in 2009. 10 years ago, Wayne developed an illustrated history of Cambria called Cambria. The same publisher asked if he would develop one about the Big Sur Coastal Highway, and he is close to finishing that. Wayne.
What a privilege to be here. I can't do justice to the history of this famous road in 20 minutes, but I have some anecdotes. For there's more to the story than the never-ending road closures, tourists gawking while driving and parking illegally, and the cost of keeping the road open. What do I mean by Big Sur Coastal Highway? I mean, it's between San Simeon and Carmel. Other folks have other definitions. To the left, this is the northern section of the highway before road improvements began. The southern half was little more than tracks suited for horseback and for carts drawn by pack animals. 3 hot springs in the area have been used for centuries. Indigenous people frequented them as such as the one above the coast here, but this is the later development. During the 1870s, a man with serious arthritis found that the hot springs here overlooking the coast relieved his condition. He acquired the property and drew other sufferers to what became called Slate's Hot Springs, and that's what that is. Next, please. Tubs like the one on the left seem to be the principal accoutrements of Slate's hot springs. 80 years later, the Esalen Institute, which acquired the property, incorporated it as a nonprofit that continues to accommodate guests interested in the human potential movement. So they're not at the hot springs, but nearby. The most famous of the 6 Big Sur arches is Bixby Bridge, from the heroic period of highway design in the 1910s and 1920s. Surprisingly, perhaps, to build a concrete arch span there, like the one on the left, they first needed to build a 26-story high redwood structure on the right. It was the scaffolding or falsework on which the reinforced concrete bridge was formed. Scaffolding took 2 months to erect and had to withstand high winds and powerful waves, and was recycled afterwards. This is one of my favorite stories. A different kind of bridge from Bixby was this on the left, called at Wildcat Creek, which is the shortest of them, and it served an urban, not rural, stretch of the highway in Carmel Highlands. The use of the pointed arch in that one was unique to the Department of Highway Designers. And the solid walls that you see there, that was unique to this bridge. The other bridges did not have that, and you could see through to the columns that were holding the bridge up. That area is called spandrels. Reportedly, an artist living near this site of the new span had recommended that its designers investigate a bridge in Florence, Italy, and offered them an illustration of it, the Ponte alla Badia, and that's on the right. It has a pointed arch, and its walls are filled in. I think that's remarkable. These high-powered engineers, yeah, we'll use a photograph of an old bridge. Let's see. Okay, next, please. It was 25 years after the California legislature approved funding for construction of the highway that construction began. One crew of about 120 men began working northward from a camp possibly near Point Piedras Blancas. And later, the camp definitely was at Salmon Creek. A similar crew worked south from a camp at Anderson Creek, which is shown here. The left is the earlier version of it, and the little, like a caterpillar down there on the left, that is the group of cabins, 8 men to a cabin. They shared sanitary facilities. They took meals together in another building. And wagons pulled by pack animals brought provisions to these remote 120-man job sites. In winter, this one on the right is a later version, which is more built up. In winter, when the rudimentary roads became impassable, the project's contractors scheduled deliveries by boat to a nearby anchorage. You may wonder where the nearby anchorage was. The nearest ports were in Monterey and San Simeon. Another day, I'll tell you about these ports. They're called dog hole ports. Men on the left there, men on the rocky slope are from a group of prisoners who were used to, on these job sites they were convicts from the San Quentin prison, and they could avoid the crowded conditions there and reduce their jail terms and earn a little money by volunteering to be out in the middle of nowhere. This group, they're called slopers. They are climbing a slope to remove loose rocks from the excavated slope. To operate machinery and supervise the convicts, men with construction experience were engaged, and this shows some of the equipment that was used at the time. While I was seeking photographs in Monterey, I happened upon a handwritten page by a woman named Glenna recounting her experience of spending a family summer at one of these road building camps where her father was employed. She's to the right. There's a dog, there's a dog there, and she's to the right, and to the left is her sister. The family lived in what she called a circus tent, which meant that it had a pole in the middle holding it up. At the end of the workdays, the men, quote, flocked to the ocean and harvested abalone, which was a staple. Her mother tenderized it by pounding it on boulders and cooked it in a cast iron skillet over their open fire. They scavenged for berries and found a substitute for chewing gum. That was the black tar from the roadwork, whose bitter taste took time to tolerate. Glenna's father, on the right there, his name was Wilbert Smith, gained renown while operating a crane to lift a boulder above a ravine. When the balance shifted, the crane tipped, and as it tumbled, Wilbert jumped clear. Later, he and his wife, Isla, posed in front of this, the wrecked crane. It's likely one of these in this lineup on the right. Sadly, several other similar incidents were fatal. The reinforced concrete bridges called the Big Sur arches may be world famous, but they are not invincible. 80 years of salty wind and waves seriously corroded the reinforcing steel and the concrete. This was both a safety hazard and a visual concern. Replacing the decaying bridges with replicas was out of the question. Fortunately, technology does evolve, and during the decades of decay, ways to stop and even repair this kind of damage were developed. Electrochemical chloride extraction applies DC current to the reinforcing steel in the concrete. The way the materials respond chemically to this experience turns the clock back on corrosion. And no, I cannot explain that. And this is, I'm going to be closing with this, which is, I call it repairing the Big Creek Bridge in the age of woke. Just as technology changed in 80 years, so did cultural norms. The bridge repair procedures would need scaffolding for access from below. But since its construction, a native burial ground was identified there. So penetrating the earth there needed to be minimal, if at all. So the solution was to hang the scaffolding from the bridge, which cost more. Then, to protect the equipment and the bridge, the equipment and the workers from intemperate coastal weather, the project would need to be shrink wrapped, which the shrink wrapping is beginning to be done there on the left. A subsequent windstorm ripped away the wrapping, and debris from flash flooding below the bridge damaged the scaffolding, which then needed inspection and repairs. Other impediments in the construction of the repair of this bridge included protocols for COVID were announced. There's a crew of 120 workers and so on. Endangered species of butterflies, bats, and rare mushrooms were designated for special attention. A hummingbird nest and eggs were found on top of the scaffolding. During pupping season at the nearby seal colony, generators had to be fitted with soundproof enclosures. A record-setting thunderstorm triggered fires in the vicinity, and a separate fire near Monterey brought thick smoke, followed by highly toxic air quality requiring work crews to use respirators. Daily, California Highway Patrol vehicles escorted the crew to and from their off-site living quarters when a washout made that route impassable. So their 4-mile ride became a 2-hour detour. I'm intrigued by these little stories, anecdotes, tidbits about this extraordinary place and project. And there are more, but not for today. What about evacuees? Or in the center there, railings with views no longer legal. And what about steep mountain slopes? Thank you. I've enjoyed sharing this with you.
Yeah.